Hey E7 fam, Pat here with another video, and in this one we'll be going over the September 2nd update notice. This is kind of an addendum, or I should say addition to the hero slash balance adjustment video that I did last week. If you guys missed that, I will be linking it down in this video's description. This is kind of to tie up any odds and ends, or I should say loose ends that were left over from that video, as well as give you my thoughts on the rest of the stuff that is going to be in this patch. It is quite huge. There's quite a lot of things to explore and quite a number of changes. So with that out of the way, let's just jump right into it. So I'm not going to be going over all the balance adjustments because we already did that in the previous video. Like I said, this is largely just an addendum to the previous video. So the first thing to talk about is Ragnar Spear. We talked about in the previous video how good Ragnar Spear was going to be for Luna and how it would probably, make her an assassin or open up quite a number of different play styles. It is a very powerful move. It has a 1.5x multiplier as of the time of this recording, and giving it a 50% defense penetration would make it the strongest, defense penetration single target move pretty much in the game, barring, like true damage things. Such as like Crow and whatnot, but like compared to a thing like Massacre from Remnant Violet, it is very good and above the average for the most part, very, very above the average. So it was brought to my attention because when we start mathing this stuff out, Ragnar Spear is doing quite a lot of damage with the proposed changes, and in the past, heroes such as Axe God have had their S3 multiplier reduced without informing the player base, and I am worried that might actually be the case here with Luna because, again, some of the math that we're getting for Luna is pretty much she's just wiping anything with 20k HP or less off the face of the planet. So I'm cautioning you all to temper those expectations. Like, I've already started building a penetration Luna on speed set with some very high speed stats for the most part. Obviously, you can see I have quite a number of reforges left, as well as a couple of swaps here or there. But yeah, I'm telling you this, guys, so you can temper those expectations. And if Luna ends up not doing as much damage on Ragnar Spear as we think, that's probably why. So I would hold off on any reforges or any major commitments or resources being spent into Luna until we know for sure that Ragnar Spear has not had the multiplier change and that it's live and we can actually do some testing. I will probably do some testing either in the form of streaming or maybe a video release where I will report my findings on Luna and see what is up with her. So yeah, again, this is just more of a highlight or a word of caution about Ragnar Spear, so you guys don't waste any Molagoras or any reforged materials until you are fully aware of what those changes are. The next thing to talk about, scrolling down, we're going to talk about Secret Art Storm Sword. As you remember, we talked about in the previous video how it could possibly be used at +0 or +15, and you would still get the 100% chance to increase the attack. Well, now that we have the official patch notes with the green text, we can see for sure that the before and after, it is still 100% no matter what, and only this green text is being changed, which means that, yes, you still unfortunately will need a +24 or better Secret Art Storm Sword for it to be relatively consistent on Selene. You still do get this really awesome combat readiness buff, which is nice though. So if you've already got one that's a 24 or better, that's great for you. But something to note that was brought to my attention is now that there is a increases combat readiness component to this move, you can actually use this on a wide variety of thieves and use it against specific things like such as cleave or control comps. So now you can equip your, say, Arbiter Vildred, or maybe maybe a Closer Charles or something like that, and kind of use it to sneak ahead and stealthily pop somebody or whatever have you. So this move, or I should say this artifact, has quite a number of applications that I have not really thought of that was brought to my attention. Again, I'm not really sure exactly which thieves you'd want to use it on, but because it has this combat readiness boost component to it, it can be used to steal quite a number of games in a similar sense to how like Elena with her CR push can steal games away from control or cleave players. So this is definitely one to keep an eye on. If you already were not playing Selene, but you did have one of these laying around, congratulations, you may have accidentally fallen into, say, like the new Alexis Basket. We don't know if it's not going to be probably as good as Basket, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on simply because it has a lot more usage than even I originally gave it credit. We're also getting episode 3, chapter 10, which I am super excited about. Probably not as excited as I originally would have been a couple weeks ago. Full disclosure, I do like reading the lore. I don't skip it. I do read it. I did feel that up until chapter 9, episode 3 was the best written episode of Epic 7. I really enjoyed the characters. I liked the story for the most part. I just feel that a lot of the storylines that were resolved in chapter 9 weren't up to stuff, and I feel like a lot of the things that happened were kind of sus. I just feel like motivations for certain things going the way they were, it just didn't live up to my expectations, and I'm really hoping that chapter 10 really does live up to those expectations, so I'm really, really looking forward to it. And then obviously you get all the standard stuff you get when there's a new area. There's this trust level and all these rewards and goodies and shop things that you can get, including this level 80 destruction ring. As a aside, if you are a newer player, by all means you can roll for these 78 or 80 pieces of gear. For everyone else who has an experienced player who can actually reforge 90 gear, I feel like unless these things roll like a penta roll into speed or like quad roll with very high speed values, they're simply not worth your time in rolling. Maybe they're great for gearing like, second or third stringers for like specific hunts, but for the most part, these are a waste of resources when you roll into them. It's simply just better to roll into an 85 and reforge it eventually into a 90. So don't fall into the trap and invest too much into this. I think, honestly, it's just not worth it in the end. So now let's talk about Powered Up Mercedes, which I think is one of the things that a lot of people are most excited about when it comes to this patch. So after you clear Stage 1010 Central Control Room, the 4-star hero Mercedes will be given a permanent buff, Volatility. Additionally, you will unlock a level called the Final Destination, and when you clear it, Volatility will be changed into the buff Immense Power, and Mercedes' appearance will change. So while you have Volatility, it increases the attack of Mercedes by 15%, but increases the damage that she takes by 10%. And then when it changes into Immense Power, you will still keep the 15% attack buff, and then when she dies, she will revive with 50% of her health. This revive can only trigger once, and it cannot be dispelled by any effects. So this is what a lot of people I see online are calling Arbiter Mercedes, which is half true. I feel like it's not quite as busted as Arbiter Vildred in his current state. This is actually the same as how Arbiter Vildred was prior to his buff. So basically release day Arbiter Vildred was when he dies, he would revive with the same amount of CR with some amount of health. So not quite as busted as Arbiter Vildred, but this does make her a viable option versus something like, say, Cleave, simply because they have to go through this character twice to get it off the board. And it does check one of the relevant boxes on a hero, which is they do need some type of innate survivability to be good or do something completely, broken for the most part. So, yeah, this is very, very good for Mercedes. It's a huge boon to her. And also she gets a 5-star artifact for clearing that level, Magic for Friends. It decreases the damage that she suffers from a critical hit by 25%, does not stack with any other damage effects, and if an ally is attacked when it's not the caster's turn, she has a 15% chance to activate Dimensional Rupture, which remember is the S2 that has a chance to proc a second time and is also a strip. So they basically kind of gave her Rem's S2 passive and Archdemon Shadow's S2 passive, although neither of those effects are quite as good as the 5-star counterparts if you're wearing this artifact. It seems like you get this skill no matter what level it is. It doesn't really increase with skill up, so you're basically only going to try to get it to plus 30 so you can have the really awesome 702 flat health, which I really, really recommend that you do, because a Scorpio Mage at the 4-star rarity only really has 2 drawbacks, one of which is really terrible health, the other is really terrible speed. So Mercedes has quite a lot of things going for her. She has a lot of utility now thanks to the attack buff. She has a lot of survivability thanks to this artifact and the revive passive. She has the strip on the S2 that can strip up to 2 buffs if you're lucky and have a decent chunk of effectiveness. The only real drawbacks at this point are the poor health and then, like I said, the poor speed. And honestly, I really wish this was more of a traditional specialty change, because it feels like right now they shoehorned all the things that should be into a rune, tree, into this Magic for Friends artifact. And as a result, Mercedes can't use things like Tehagels, and she can't really use things like Abyssal Crown if you're so inclined to really get, the most out of the character. Like, it's kind of like you're forced to play Magic for Friends because it has a lot of the core components that you would want the character to get out of a specialty change, and you know that honestly, it kind of hurts. This feels like it's the litmus test because they really didn't want to make 4-stars too much better than they already are. But when you consider the fact that 3-star specialty change heroes are almost as good as like ML 5-stars because of how much extra stats and how many extra passes they get, you kind of feel like you'd want every non 5-star character to get that. So that's my only real hangout with Mercedes. I do think she is quite good though. How good remains to be seen. Honestly, I could see her being a meta pick just because attack buff is in right now. Having an attack buffer that also strips is quite good, and she does have a decent chunk of survivability, and she is quite annoying for a lot of AoE cleave or control players to play against thanks to the passive from Magic for Friends. Alright, so let's talk now about Selective Summons. After you beat episode 3, you will get to do another 30-10 pulls just like you did when you first started the game Epic 7, and you'll get to bank one of them, and then, you know, at the end of the 30, whichever one you want, either the last one or the one you bank, that's the one you're going to end up with. So here are the list of the 5-star heroes and artifacts that you can actually get in the pool. I will quickly try to summarize some of my thoughts on these and give you my highlights. I probably would not take Shu, as I think that with Luna's buff, there's less of a need for blue DPS, but it is still a pretty good blue unit for counter gamers. Urvalin is only really useful for Hopeless Amaquis and Banshee at this point. Flan is excellent for cleave, but if you have auxiliary lots, it's just like having a second copy of it. You know, very counterable unit, but still pretty good. Mort is one of the all-stars, I think, that is coming out of this patch. How good he is going to be remains to be seen. But if you don't have one and you want to jump on the potential bandwagon, this is a good, you know, landing on point. Polinas is excellent against cleave and very useful for basically quite a number of PvP style content, so like Guild Wars and Arena Defense. She's excellent there. If you don't have one and you're struggling against Politis, she's probably the most well-rounded pick and one of the best ones you can take here. Edda is only if you really like her from the story, not super great. Senya is a very underrated bruiser who is very, very good against cleave comps in particular, and is very good against bruiser comps that only, you know, end up with 1 DPS, such as Rem. Ilinav is a Guild War all-star, and I have a guide on this channel if you want to learn more. Euphine is one of the most overloaded kits in the entire game, but lacks survivability and is incredibly stat hungry, which makes it very difficult for her to find an identity in the meta. I do think she has potential and could eventually become a breakout, you know, star pick in some form of RTA in some format at some time, but it remains to be seen. If she is your waifu, by all means take her, but it is a very risky pick overall. Cecilia is a fantastic red knight who is excellent for Blooming Snaglich, which unfortunately just rotated out today as of the timing of this video. I do think that she is one of the most underrated units in the entire game, and she is one of my niche Arius picks in RTA. Again, really underrated character with quite a powerful kit that is useful in quite a number of situations, RTA and Guild War included. Alencia has fallen quite a bit out of favor, but she is still a very powerful pick against buff-heavy comps and bruiser style gameplay. So she is just really good overall. I don't think she's quite as bad as people seem to think she is. The changes obviously to RTA in Season 3 did hurt her a little bit, and then obviously a red meta shift also hurt her as well. But we are slowly creeping back into a blue meta, so I actually think there's quite a decent chance that Alencia will make a return. It's not like she's got bad for some reason over time, so very good pick overall. Although you may want to consider holding off on choosing this one, because she is going to be the raid up banner basically starting tomorrow after this video first debuts. And then Bomb Model Kana is a free unit, so I probably would not take it unless you really just want the imprints. Looking at the 5-star artifacts, Snow Crystal is really good for Holiday Euphine and not much else. Double-Edged Decrescent, not really worth it. Unseen Observer if you are a Flan gamer. Ancient Dragon's Legacy is nice to have, but not really usable in anything at the moment. Knowledge Seed is a meme and in need of buffs. Twilight Calamity is much the same. Spear of a New Dawn is a mandatory pickup if you play Senya, and is really good on Red Charlotte. Wings of Light and Shadow is not really particularly useful. Merciless Gluttony is going to be excellent post-patch. How great it is remains to be seen. If you were a Luna gamer, excellent pickup. Rise of the Monarch has niche applications in Guild War teams, whether it's on offense or defense, and could be potentially good on certain characters such as Lilius or Clary. Alensinox's Wrath is good for new players who are struggling for critical hit chance on some of their warriors, but for the most part, it is outclassed at the higher tiers and thus probably not worth taking. And air-to-surface missile Misha has finally seen some usage on Briar Witch Assyria, so if you were trying to play a damage-based Briar Witch Assyria, then this is a good pickup for you. Tying up the loose ends in the patch, there's going to be 2 side stories that are going to be coming out tomorrow, one of which is a puzzle, which is a very special opening day. You guys already know how this goes. You reveal the tile, you complete the mission, you get the rewards. As I said previously, I would probably not roll into any 78 gear that you get in it unless you're an absolutely new player. I think your charms are better used on 85s that can be reforged into 90s, so keep that in mind. And then obviously we're going to get the third part of the Lord of Summer, which is Summertime Assyria's side story. So far, this has been quite enjoyable. I really enjoyed the minigame, and I think that the dialogue is quite funny, revolving around the Hell Raid and regular raid bosses for the most part. It's been pretty good, though. One of the better ones in recent memory. Then we are going to be getting a drop rate up for Alencia this week. Alencia is a very good character. I know she's not being used a ton in RTA right now, but that is because the meta simply does not favor her. The changes to her, RTA a couple seasons ago really hurt her. And then we obviously had a shift to a more red-based meta with things like Robbie and Researcher Carrot. So that has kind of boxed her out as well. But she may eventually come back into favor, from things like Amelia and Rem. So I do think it is worth owning her. And I don't know about you guys, though. Like, with 3 limited banners in the past, couple of weeks, I'm super tapped out. I have no bookmarks. I basically have no Skystones. So I would not fault you for skipping Alencia. If you have the resources to do so, it might be worth picking her up. Keep in mind that both Lilius and Vivian are next week as well. If you are a new player, I highly recommend that you go for Vivian next week, because Vivian is insane in all facets of content, whereas Alencia is more of a Guild War offense hero as well as a RTA hero. So keep that in mind. You can skip it if you just don't have the resources. Don't feel like you are mandatory, or don't feel like it's a mandatory pull, I should say, because it certainly is not. If you do have one, though, and you are looking to build her in, for general usage in both Guild Wars and RTA, I will be doing a how to play video when she comes out tomorrow morning. So look forward to that dropping tomorrow on this channel. Then we will be getting Abyss floors 111 to 120. I don't know how many of you are all actually on Abyss 111 at the moment. I struggled quite a bit to get to 111, or I should to clear 110. 102, 105, and 110 were absolutely brutal and made me honestly want to break my keyboard when I was actually playing it. So yeah, this is like tough. I know that they're gonna nerf 102, 105, and 109. I personally thought 109 was pretty easy for the most part, but yeah. I'm not looking forward to this. I will try to upload any clears that I get, as I will try to do them a couple times each day to try to progress them, because I just don't like, purifying without at least attempting them here or there. So if you're looking for those kind of clear videos, probably another content creator will end up doing it faster than I do, but, I will eventually try and power through all of them. I don't like to take too long on Abyss. I usually try and clear it in the first couple of weeks. So if you are looking for Abyss clears, then, I'll upload them when I get the actual clear so I can show you all. Then we are going to be getting extra equipment storage. This is very reminiscent of the second archive from Fate Grand Order, if you all have ever played that. Basically, things that are in your inventory that you're not using, you can just kind of store them away as extra room. So it's kind of like we are doubling our inventory space. And what they said on the live stream was, for some reason, like, the load times in the unit engine just can't handle inventory higher than 500. I don't know if I necessarily buy that because of how coding works and integers versus doubles and things like that. So yeah, I just don't buy it, but whatever. 500 spaces is 500 spaces, so I am very happy to have this, especially as someone who is a pack rat and I literally get rid of nothing. Like, I hold on to the most obscure gear for the longest amount of time, so I am welcoming this change. It is very nice to actually have. So then we have this exclusive equipment change with Coeric, which we talked about in the previous video. And then finally, the last couple of things we have here are these hero summon packs. This 3-star hero summon pack where you just get a random episode 3 hero for clearing the episode 3. If it's like $10 or less, especially if you have like a Google Play coupon, might be worth picking up. This episode dash, probably not worth getting unless you're just like a mega whale and buy everything. Because if I recall correctly, this is like $30 or $50. It's basically just an episode 2 5-star, and episode 2 artifact, and just 8 random, like, I guess non-covenant summon rolls. So yeah, not super worth it. Potion of Ascension, this one depends entirely on the price. If you're a whale, obviously you're just going to buy it. If you're like a light spender, it might be worth getting. Again, if you have a Google Play coupon and it's like, reasonably priced, like say like $5 or something, it might actually be worth it, just to save the time. But for the most part, probably would just skip most or all of these packs unless they're just like somehow just insanely cheap. And knowing this game, they're usually not. The one pack, though, I will say here, which for some reason is strangely absent from these patch notes, is actually the patch note for the charity that was shown on the live stream, where it's $10 probably for 10 leaves, the frame, and the pet, and the proceeds go towards helping children with vaccines. That is a worthwhile cause, and if you have the cash, the pocket cash to be able to do so, I highly recommend that you support that cause, because it is a cause worth supporting. So that's pretty much going to be it for the updates here. Hopefully this was of some use to you all. If you are new here and you like the video, please consider giving me a like or a subscribe, or just comment down below and let me know what you disliked, what you liked, things like that. Enjoy the rest of your day. Look forward to the Alencia video tomorrow, and have a great week. Later, guys.